Hello and welcome. You're with us here on Business Today. I'm Abha Bakaya. Here are the day's top stories. Dalal Street bucks the global trend. Sensex jumps over 400 points. Nifty closes above 17,650. Financials and metal stocks surge in trade. Brent oil jumps as oil producer group OPEC Plus surprises energy markets, will cut output for the first time in a year. The next OPEC Plus meeting is scheduled for October 5th. Strong rally in the US dollar rattles currencies across the world. The rupee weakens to move closer to the 80 mark. Euro falls to lowest level against the dollar in 2 decades as Russia halts gas supply to the region. Liz Truss to become Britain's next Prime Minister defeats Rishi Sunak in Tory leadership race. She also elected as leader of Conservative Party. A day after Cyrus Mistry died in a road accident, R.C. Bhargava Maruti chairman and the grand old man of the auto sector tell Business Today TV that there is no substitute to rear passengers wearing seat belts. Calls for stricter implementation of rules. Cyrus Mistry, former Tata Sons chairman, died in a tragic car accident yesterday. The car he was travelling in was a complete wreck in the high-speed collision with a divider in the middle of the road. Front seat occupant Darius and driver Anahita survived the crash, but Cyrus Mistry and friend Jahangir, who were in the rear seat, were not that fortunate. Mistry did not have his seatbelt on. The death of the billionaire in the crash has highlighted the importance of seatbelts. In fact, according to a local circle survey, 7 of the 10 Indians never wear a seatbelt when travelling on the rear seat of a vehicle. We spoke to top bosses of Maruti India and Audi India about the necessity for passengers in the rear seat. Listen in.
The tragic accident of Cyrus Mistry, this brings to the fore all these issues of 6 airbags. I know you're not exactly a critic, but you've had your reservations about those kind of regulations and how much they will add to already inflated costs of cars. But do you think they will actually now make the regulators even more press ahead, even more on things like 6 airbags and such safety regulations?
You know, if you look at the unfortunate accident of Mr. Cyrus Mistry, he was in the safest of cars. This car had 6 or maybe more airbags. And the people in the front survived, the people at the back did not. For the simple reason that apparently from what all accounts show, the people in the front had their seat belts on, whereas people at the back did not have their seat belts on. And I think it's quite clear from this that what is the most important factor for safety is the need for people, even in back seats, to wear seat belts. If they do not wear seat belts, having the safest of cars and the best of airbags as Mercedes has, there's no Mercedes does not do anything which is not absolutely top class. It still doesn't help. They died on the spot. The people in the front are in hospital. Hopefully they will recover soon.
So
unfortunately,
you maintain your position that 6 airbags and all these things are not really essential?
No, they are important. But more important is to get people to keep their seat belts fastened all the time, even in the back seat. Unfortunately, in India, not even 5% of the people on the back seats put on their seat belts. Not even 5%. Now, my point is that first, please get people to start using seat belts on the back seats. Till that time, putting airbags is not going to make life safer for them.
We just recently saw a very bad incident for Mr. Cyrus Mistry happening. Would you like to pay any your condolences for that? And secondly, how important is it for a rear seat belt to be plugged in? Because apparently that was a contentious point in this case. So, any comment on how important it is for the road safety point of view, sir?
Of course, really the condolences, because he was a visionary, he was a stalwart of automotive industry, and he was very positive about India. So we lost somebody who could have done much more for India. That's the unfortunate part. Of course, safety always is our primary concern with the customers, and we always urge our customers, whatever safety provisions that are provided in the cars, but at the end of the day, it is also partially responsibility when somebody who's sitting in the car that they're wearing the seat belts, because primary safety comes from wearing the seat belts.
We also spoke with Road and Transport Minister Nitin Gadkari on road safety. Here's what he had to say.
ये चर्चा चल रही कि अक्टूबर से ये जो एयरबैग्स हैं खासतौर से रेड सीट्स पे, क्या आप उनको कंपलसरी करने की दिशा में बढ़ रहे हैं, बढ़ेंगे, होगा, नहीं होगा?
ऑलरेडी इट इज इन द प्रोसेस, कुछ अप्रूवल्स हमको चाहिए, उसके लिए लगा हुआ है।
क्योंकि ये जो साइरस मिस्ट्री जी की डेथ हुई उसके बाद ये मामला पूरा एक बार फिर से आ गया, तो आप अभी उस दिशा में बढ़ना चाहते हैं? आप कह रहे हैं,
देखिए, इंटरनेशनल स्टैंडर्ड्स, इंटरनेशनल सक्सेसफुल प्रैक्टिसेस रिगार्डिंग रोड सेफ्टी, और जो कुछ स्टैंडर्ड्स है उसके बारे में हम कोई कॉम्प्रोमाइज नहीं करेंगे, और हम लोग यही कहेंगे कि बिल्कुल हमको जान बचाना है लोगों की, ये इंपॉर्टेंट है। और एक बात बता दो आपको, टोटल 3.2% जीडीपी का नुकसान रोड एक्सीडेंट के कारण हो रहा है। ये कितना बड़ा नुकसान है, और 3-3 लाख लोग हाथ पैर टूट जाता है, बेचारे उनका लाइफ खराब हो जाता है, वो कितना बड़ा नुकसान है। कोई इंजीनियर है, कोई डॉक्टर है, किसी का यंग लड़का है, आईआईटी इंजीनियरिंग कॉलेज का लड़का है, उसके पैर टूट जाते हैं। देखो, ये कॉम्प्रोमाइज का विषय ही नहीं होता, हमें लोगों की जान बचाना इज द हाईएस्ट प्रायोरिटी।
They may be the biggest shareholders in Tata Sons, but all has not been hunky-dory with the Shapoorji Pallonji Group. One of the oldest and largest construction companies in India, the group is highly leveraged, and the demise of Cyrus Mistry put the spotlight on the group once again.
The Shapoorji Pallonji Group may be one of the oldest construction companies in India. But its big claim to fame is still the substantial stake its promoters have in India's largest industrial group, Tata Sons. Thanks to a white knight deal by Cyrus Mistry's grandfather, the Mistry family owns around 18.5% stake in Tata Sons, making it the largest shareholder in the sprawling Tata empire. According to the Bloomberg Billionaires Index, Pallonji Mistry had a net worth of $29 billion as of June this year. The enormous stake has, however, not saved Shapoorji Pallonji Group from debt troubles over the last few years. Troubles primarily driven by high debt in its real estate business. The group had a debt burden of a whopping 37,000 crore rupees in the beginning of financial year 2021 to 2022. It has managed to reduce it to 23,500 crore in a year. The SP Group had to sell some of its silver, including Eureka Forbes, for 3,100 crore rupees and Sterling and Wilson for 2,850 crore rupees. Reports suggest the group is also looking to sell a part or its complete stake in Afcon's infrastructure and other companies. Though the group is headed by his elder brother, Shapoor Mistry now, the move to reduce the debt was led by Cyrus Mistry. And he was so successful that its ratings were recently upgraded to stable outlook. It now lies upon the surviving brother to steer the group. Meanwhile, Tata Motors paid its silent tribute to the former group chairman at its truck launch event in Mumbai. Meanwhile, there has been no public reaction from Ratan Tata on Cyrus Mistry's demise. Even the death of Pallonji Mistry in June did not elicit a public response from Ratan Tata. Bureau Report, Business Today Television.
The Shapoorji Pallonji Group is a 157-year-old conglomerate which Cyrus Mistry took charge of in 1994. This was just as India's economy was opening up to new challenges, and the group took the lead in transforming the country's landscape and building some iconic structures across Asia and India. Let's take a look at some of these famous structures.
Cyrus Mistry was just 26 years old when he took charge of his family business. The soft-spoken, humble Parsi took over as the managing director of Shapoorji Pallonji & Co. in 1994 and ended up transforming India's landscape. But he had some big shoes to fill. The Shapoorji Pallonji Group, founded in 1865, is the oldest privately held construction company in India and has built luxury hotels, stadiums, palaces and factories, including the tower wing of the iconic Taj Mahal Hotel in Mumbai. The Malabar Hill Reservoir in Mumbai, built in 1887. The Bombay Central Station building, built in 1930. The Mecca of cricket in Mumbai, the Brabourne Stadium, the old building of Reserve Bank of India, as well as the new building 41 years later, the Breach Candy Hospital, the Bank of India building in Mumbai, Mahatma Mandir, Gandhi Kutir in Gandhinagar, the Oberoi Towers on the Marine Drive in Mumbai, and the Leelavati Hospital in Mumbai. The group also built the Qasr Al Alam Royal Palace in Muscat for the Omani Sultan in 1975. It was a tough act to follow for Cyrus Mistry, and he did not disappoint. He left behind his own indelible legacy, which include the NCPA building at the southern end of the Marine Drive in Mumbai, the Diamond Bourse, the Max Hospital in Saket, Delhi, the DLF-IT Park in Gurugram, the Imperial Towers in Mumbai, the Jawaharlal Nehru Stadium, Delhi in 2010, the Lulu Shopping Mall in Kochi, and the spectacular Jammu-Udhampur Highway. These are among the many projects of the Shapoorji Pallonji Group. The company spread its wings into West Asia and Africa during tenure, ensuring the younger Mistry left his mark all around. Bureau Report, Business Today Television.
India's IT city was marooned once again after the heavy spell of rain last evening. Several parts of the city were inundated due to severe waterlogging, with techies resorting to tractors for making it to offices, with torrential rainfall bringing the city to its knees. How much is it costing the tech giants? Here's a full report.
Cars submerged in water. Massive waterlogging. Unending traffic bottlenecks. People wading through waist-deep water. Hitching a ride from tractors to reach their offices. That's what Bengaloreans had to endure on Monday, as torrential rains battered the Silicon Valley of India. The IT hub was brought to its knees. Majorly impacted on the outer ring road, which connects the city to the tech parks located on the outskirts of Bengaluru.
IT officials and employees are taking tractor because they are unable to connect to the other side of the road because entire area is being flooded. You can see these are the IT companies on Yamluru and Bellanduru road, and they don't have any kind of connectivity because the entire area is being flooded.
This is the second time in a week that the city was submerged after intense rainfall. On August 30th, torrential rains had cost companies on Outer Ring Road a whopping 225 crore rupees. The Outer Ring Road Companies Association had blamed the poor infrastructure on this corridor for bringing down the efficiency and productivity of the companies. In the letter to Karnataka Chief Minister Basavaraj Bommai, the association highlighted that safety of employees was put at risk, with many stuck on roads for 5 hours due to flooding.
Due to the recent floods which happened in front of EcoSpace, many companies had to face a lot of issues and challenges, and had to undergo a lot of changes in their business continuity plans, and also announce work from home for 3-4 days, which resulted in several losses, which we also have mentioned in the letter submitted to the Honorable CM.
On its part, the state government has pledged to address the immediate concerns. IT firms on the ORR generate revenue of $22 billion every year, accounting for 32% of Bengaluru's total IT revenue. As the citizens battle the vagaries of weather, the spotlight is back on Bengaluru's poor infrastructure. With vegetation and water bodies seeing a steep decline, will the government be able to maintain the balance between infrastructure growth and perils of climate change? Bureau Report, Business Today Television.
Bucking the global market trend, benchmark indices continued their winning run for a second straight day. Sensex soaring nearly 500 points intraday before cooling off a bit to end at 59,246. The Nifty too climbed 126 points to settle at 17,666. Reliance and metal stocks led the indices higher, but auto and FMCG stocks played spoilsport. Hindalco, JSW Steel, NTPC, ITC, Sun Pharma, some of the top gainers today. ITC continued to rise, hitting a 5-year high. On the downside, Nestle, Bajaj Auto, Britannia, Ultratech Cement and Eicher Motors ended weak in a firm market. Despite a tepid global mood, Indian markets have been resilient on robust economic growth prospects. But will this run sustain, or global headwinds come in the way of resilience? Udayan Mukherjee and I spoke to Hiren Ved, Director, CIO and CEO of Alchemy Capital Management. Here's an excerpt.
You also must be very pleasantly surprised at the remarkable resilience of the Indian market relative to all other global markets. I mean, we almost don't seem to blink these days when the US markets fall for 3 or 4 sessions on the trot. Do you think this is sustainable, or is it in a sense making the Indian market vulnerable to future drawdowns in case the global rout continues?
So first of all, hi Udayan and Abha, thanks for having me on the show. Yeah, I mean, it's an incredible how resilient the Indian markets have been. And I think it's not about what we are seeing today. We've virtually thrown everything at this market for the last 12 months, right? Inflation, rising rates, the Ukraine war, supply chain dislocations, oil at $100 plus. And despite that, the markets are just 4 or 5% away from its all-time highs. So there are two ways to look at this, right? So either you look at data and then try to support a thesis of the market, or you then look at price action and then decide what the market is doing. And if you look at the price action, what the price action is telling you is that this market is set for a very resilient and structural run. I think once some of these geopolitical issues get sorted out or settled or are priced in, you may see a significant run-up in this market.
So Hiren, we take your point about the resilience, but my question is, do you see this global turbulence as or geopolitics, as you mentioned, as the only headwind for this market now, or would you also add valuations to that list of things which could come in the way of this continuing outperformance?
No, Dian, in fact, I'm quite surprised when people bring in valuations in the equation, right? I mean, if you really look at the earnings in the last 2 years, you know, in the COVID year, Nifty earnings was up about 18-19%, and then in 21-22, the earnings was up another 48-49%. Now, you could argue that, you know, a large part of the incremental earnings was because of commodity stocks earnings going up, but earnings are earnings, right? And if you look at the just concluded first quarter numbers, right, I mean, despite almost a 400-500 basis point shave off on EBITDA margins, you still had positive earnings growth in India. And you know, the Nifty earnings have been cut by just 2 to 3%. So I think now the FY24 Nifty earnings is as about 995 or 1000, which means that we are roughly trading at about 18 times 1 year forward earnings. I think for a country which is now likely to see a secular growth in earnings and is placed fairly well in terms of the growth cycle, I don't think paying 18 times 1 year forward earnings is going to be a big challenge. And look at the breadth of the earnings revision, right? I mean, unlike in 2018, 19 and 20, when earnings were very consolidated in just a few top companies, I think what's changed this time is that a far wider set of sectors and companies is contributing to this earnings growth. So I think that I don't think the valuations are very expensive.
Talking about the structural growth story, Hiren, let's break that down a little further in terms of the other pockets where you find those opportunities, and are they necessarily restricted to stocks of a certain size, or would you be looking across the market but for clear structural growth stories?
So Abha, I think, you know, again, in terms of the structural growth stories, as I mentioned, that you know, we're very bullish on manufacturing, right? I think autos, clearly after 5 years of very tough times, is coming out of the shadows. You know, specialty chemicals is in a structural growth story. Obviously, there was a high base effect and there are some raw material pricing issues. But on the whole, I don't see an issue in terms of these sectors growing at very healthy double-digit rates. Defense is a big sunrise sector, right, in manufacturing, and I think there we can clearly now see the whole Atmanirbhar Bharat and the focus on getting domestic manufacturing kick-started. You know, we saw the recent carrier being inaugurated at the Cochin shipyard. We're seeing that more fighter aircraft are being manufactured in India at HAL, and I think that is going to spawn a whole ecosystem, just like when the auto industry came to India, the Japanese and the Koreans came, and there was it spawned a whole auto component industry. I think there's going to be a whole ecosystem of you know, defense manufacturing that will do phenomenally well. So I think, you know, it's going to be spread across several areas, and you will see far more smaller companies which haven't done anything for years. I mean, like, when was the last time that people were bullish on bearing companies or tire companies in India? I mean, we had well forgotten to even hear about those stories, or even for that matter textiles, which is coming out of the woodworks after 10 years, right? So we're seeing a breadth of sectors which are likely to do well now.
And you can catch the full interview on businesstoday.in and our YouTube channel. We leave it on the show tonight. Thanks so much for watching.